here at Disaster Cover Journal. Today's sponsor is Storm Geo, and the topic is Advanced Weather Intelligence. A very timely topic, especially considering the active tropical systems out there, the fires everyone's dealing with, and much more. So, also, before we get started here today, I wanted to review a couple housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. This recording will be shared with everyone tomorrow via an automated email. Attendees are also in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask any questions, please use the question panel you'll locate on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll answer as many of these questions as possible at the end of the session. Now back to today's topic on advanced weather intelligence, applying predictive weather response to your business decision guidance. Our presenters today are Hank Groles and Jim Judge. Hank is the managing director of Storm Geo. He has over 30 years of business consulting and market development experience. He provides clients with strategic weather decision support, helping customers to protect their employees and valuable assets, avoid unnecessary costs, and increase operational efficiency. Jim has over 47 years of experience in public safety that include emergency medical services, fire services, and emergency management. In each of these fields, he has served as both a street-level provider and in various levels of management and leadership. He has received numerous national, state, and local awards for administrative and operational excellence in public safety. His current position is with Volusia County Department of Public Protection in Daytona Beach, Florida, where he serves as the Emergency Management Director. And with no further introductions, I'd like to now welcome and turn the mic over to Hank.
All right, thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. And I will quickly go to the slides here, and I will stop my webcam here at this point and go to the slides. All right. Like it was said, I'm the managing director of Storm Geo Inc. here in the Houston area, and let's go to what's going on in the weather here. I mean, this is what we're tracking here currently, and this is not everything. There's also on the West Pacific, there's another major development going on. But as you can see, we got Sally, we got Teddy, Vicky, Paulette, and we also have Karina here on the in the Pacific. So there's a lot of activity going on, and it is definitely very key to make sure that you are prepared and also do the right, go through the right step. And that's something that I want to address in today's session here. Like I said, I will address a couple of slides, and then we move over to a panel kind of discussion, talking with Jim how he applies it in his line of work. So, very brief. I will go quickly through this here. Storm Geo, roughly 500 employees, and you say, hey, that's not big, but we are covering the whole globe. We have many offices, lots of operation centers, because we're 24/7, 365, covering everything from a lot of industries. And they include shipping, where we handle lots of vessels and voyages. We have a major market share there, as well as also renewables. Very top, high end now that to focus on. And for instance, 170,000 megawatts of wind and social energy is supported. And we're top of that is in Europe, and we're expanding to the North Americas as well as South America. I'm not going through all the items here in detail, but also oil and gas, as you can imagine. There are many oil rigs out there, offshore locations. We're covering them. They are very interested in what the waves are doing, what the streams are doing, what the winds are doing. And hey, you just said Laura, Marco, and now Sally. Everything is very, and that's just the Gulf of Mexico, and we're talking about globally here. Another big area is cross-industry. We're providing over 23,000 forecasts on a daily basis just for the US. Very asset-specific locations and forecasts. And there you have to think about hospitals and banks and manufacturing companies, governmental institutions, like what Jim is working for. And then lastly, and that's actually the very start of StormGeo, is media. We are also in the media, but predominantly at this point in Brazil as well as in Europe. We covering roughly 20 million unique customers. And yeah, there's a solution for that too. That's around the industries that we cover. Now let's go back to business here. What is impacting here? Some of these slides, perhaps you have seen them before, but just to put it in perspective, business disruption is very key, and it is mainly caused by weather. Just to give you an idea, this has come from Aon on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see that. It is just in the last decade, almost $3 trillion of damage, economic damages. That's 1.2 trillion higher than the decade before. And that is a changing environment. We know that. And there are some other parts to see that. Here for the US, this is what coming from NOAA also. And here you can see how the impact is on the business disruptions here. 2020 is not yet even over. This is just through the June timeframe, and we already had Laura, now actively going on, Sally, with rains of 30 inches and more, and it's tremendous. So with that in mind, we need to monitor everything here, all of us here, to be prepared. It can be for tornadoes, it can be for severe weather, drought, hurricanes, and wildfires. Wildfires tremendously in the western part of the US. So with that being said, again, we need to assess the risk of weather impacts here. And there is always a challenge. By the way, this is our operations center on the right-hand side. But very important is, and I would like to get also later the perspective of Jim about this, is weather information you can get from numerous places. But if you want to get weather intelligence, you need to start thinking about what is a trusted source. And I'm not saying that StormGeo is the only one. There's definitely other organizations also. Let's be clear about that. But a consistent driver of straightforward information is key. Also, you want to step away from the fact looking at the local news like sky is falling, and yeah, and let's face it, several organizations want to have good ratings. I can assure you that organizations like StormGeo here were very business focused. We say how it is, what are the risk factors, so that you can make the right decisions. Then also, how much information do you want? The over and under alerting is very challenging here. You can get a lot of information, like I said, from the internet, for instance, but what can you do regarding an asset-specific actionable item? So you have all kinds of assets around the world or in the US, then you want to know what's going on and what can I do? What impact does it have to me on my address here? I'm here, literally sitting here in the Houston office at 12650 North Federal Drive. That's where I want to be, want to get alerts about, not about whole Harris County. That's for me. Some others want to have the Harris County, but perhaps also split in multiple regions. One key thing is always with the risk analysis is, where is my liability? And every one of us who is on this call thinks about duty of care. Duty of care to my employees, duty of care of my customers, and many of our clients now also go to duty of care to our providers. So that's a key point here. Let me give you an example here. So what does it mean? You have the information and you want to make it you want to make an assessment and you want to make a decision. This is from a crane operator with these high cranes, you know, the 300 and 450 feet high cranes. They are very susceptible to high winds. So they know when to mobilize a crane, but they also see then, for instance, when to erect a crane, but continuously operate a crane could be a challenge in the next week. That's just an example. You need to have actual information. So what does that mean in a day-to-day business here? And how we always bring this forward to our clients also. And again, that's another question for Jim later, which is, how do you go through it? This is our view. You have your business as usual. You know there's something brewing. You're monitoring it. You're preparing it for it. It's happening. And what do you do after? I go quickly through these here. So first of all, you need to look at three categories here: the assessment, the communication, and the mitigation here. How do you mitigate it? Okay, business as usual. I mean, everything is going on, but this is always the most important part here, which I say, drill the co-locations, do drills, know what you're doing. We just recently went here in our own office when Laura had the track of Laura was first going also to Houston. So we had to go through our own emergency management protocols. So that was important. But before that, 2 months before, we did a drill. We knew exactly what the decision-making points were. Drill mass communications. You need to test how to communicate to your people. Employee preparedness. Give you what to do with employees. What can they expect? So education is key. And to help that, you need to look at a daily view of where do I have my risk? Is everything green, or is there some additional challenges? But with the communication, that people know that you also have communication, you could send also out a daily brief of your location regarding the upcoming weather. People know then, your employees know then that you are looking at it and you have a hand on it. More important, of course, becomes then after the business as usual, you are getting aware there is something brewing somewhere. And that's when you notify your management, you notify your HR to see, hey, there is something, we need to be keeping an eye on it. But and very important is also that you are making the preparations already in the background. We also had that when we started looking at Laura about 7-8 days before it could head to Houston, and we were looking at, we need to make sure that we have a big generator here, make sure that you top off your emergency supplies. We looked at all the areas that regarding sleeping bags literally here, and that people could have the, stay over here because we have a 24/7, 365 operation center. All right, so you need to know what is coming here. Is it the snow, it's the wind, etc. So you need to have a good view of what is predicted in the outskirts. Each time I'm talking about hurricanes, here's in the hurricane trigger report, for instance, where you talk, then you have multiple days. All these stages, what I'm saying here, from business as usual through monitoring to awareness or monitoring, etc., that can also be all in comprehended in one day based on the kind of weather event. So at the moment that you really know it's coming, you're going to monitor it. Make sure that you notify all your employees. Your incident task force needs to be also informed and really started to set up. Notify also the damage assessment team. Some organizations do that. We also needed to understand, what if it hits us? Who needs to make the assessment, where to go, what to do, and afterwards, when it has happened, what can we do? How do we do the assessment? So you need to know not only when it is happening, also when it is becoming clear. So again, looking forward is always important. to understand which areas. In this example here, for instance, on the top part, you see Baton Rouge is all green. That's a key information that you could have, that you say, hey, I put my folks in an alternate work location, if that's possible, in Baton Rouge. So you know where what is hitting. Okay. And after the monitoring, you start to really prepare for the onset here. Activate your incident command center task force, and you are going to migrate to co-location. Actually, for LoRa, so you know, we had to split our team. We split apart, had to do a write-out team here in the office in Houston, just in case it would still last minute move to Houston. And we had a team in College Station, also about an hour and a half more west. So make sure that you are prepared for it and that you can look forward to make the right decisions. Again, what is coming? When is it coming? When is it safe? We always looked also, again here, similar to when is it back safe again? So people, that's a key information that you can also provide to your employees. It's not only for them and for your business, but it's also key information for them and their loved ones. You need to know what is coming. When is it safe? What kind of safe? Here you can see, for instance, on this, on the right-hand side, to see a nice graph going up and down, and like that. When is the temperature change, significant temperature change coming in? How do I need to make my process, my business process or my operational process, needed to be adjusted so that my pipes don't freeze, because that's a major frost example here. Then you got the onset. Onset is key. It's happening. There's not much you can do at that point, except that you keep in communication. You need to know how is it moving, and what can we also expect. Is there any other changes in that? Can I communicate this? Onset can also mean that what the former one was about a hurricane. Again, you have lead times. Here it is onset of tornadoes. So you want to know not only when a tornado is in your whole county, for instance, but also where is it going? What is the direction of the tornado? And give the right information for the right people. It all comes back to weather intelligence and making sure that you have the right information. The post area is, I say, always one of the most important ones. That's when you want to know, when can I go back to business as usual? And you want to know, when is the temperature, for in this one here, when is the temperature dropping at? It was too heat. Some organizations have these processes in place where when it gets above a certain temperature, they cannot work, for instance, outside, and they need to wait. So they can adjust that. So these are all weather events, can be a very short one, can be a long one, that you want to monitor. Monitoring is important. One of our large clients here is also T-Mobile. We are allowed to use this as an example. And here it is, aftermath. All these nice dots there, these are cell towers. We're monitoring all the cell towers. And based on that, you also want to know where, in this case, there was a major hurricane that came. You want to know where was the highest peak wind gusts. And based on that, they can stage the people, and where do I direct my people? Where's the most likely the biggest damage? That's a directive that they can use. So afterwards, using the information that has happened is a key thing to help to get you as quickly as possible to business as usual. I want to go quickly here and let's go to the wrap up here. So StormGeo, what do we stand for? You see on the right top there, our logo, StormGeo, navigate tomorrow today. And it's very key also for us. It's like you want to see where it is, what is happening, and if you use us or our competitors, but go to a trusted environment, a trusted organization to get a single source of information. And look at where can you make decisions that happen tomorrow or in the next hour or in a week from now? How is the weather impacting my supply chain, for instance? We talked briefly, I really went quickly over that. One of our visions is we want to have a world beyond the climate change. We're looking beyond that. Things are changing. There's no discussion about that part. But what can we do to minimize the impact? So think about that too. Can we help out by making good decisions to help out to minimize the climate change? Yeah, for instance, we have a major hotel chain. They're interested also in the information regarding the temperature changes. With that information, they can make a decision around their thermostats in all the hotels they have across the globe. It's all automated. They can save significantly money, but not only cost, but the emissions are also significantly the emission reduction is also significantly. So these are little things that can help everyone. Lastly, our mission. Every day we enable our clients to navigate a changing environment by unlocking the value of data. Unlocking the value of data. All the data, you can get a lot of graphs, you can get a lot of topical maps and like that. What we want to get is give you actionable data, actionable information. So that's where we stand at this point here. I know I went quickly through it, but like you said, like it was mentioned, there's a lot happening in the world, and here in the US now with Sally also, and I'm sure that many of you are also focused on other very important emergency management areas. So I want to introduce you to Jim Judge, and we have a couple of questions here. One moment, let me share my screen also. Hey Jim, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you, Hank?
All right. Okay, I have a couple of questions, and I know you. I went just through this whole deck. It went really fast and like that. That's how we are. We won't get to the fact. But can you describe me a little bit your role in Volusia County?
You bet, Hank. Well, as the Emergency Management Director, it's really my responsibility on a countywide basis to prepare the community to respond to, deal with, and recover from a wide variety of potential disasters, from hurricanes to tornadoes, wildfires, floods. Of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic, as you know, so really preparing the community. And that includes fire, EMS, law enforcement, public works, making sure that the community is ready to go.
So with that, I mean, that's incredible how much. I mean, I'm just talking about weather events, and you're talking about, okay, weather is one part of my part, and there's many other items that you need to look at. So how do you use your weather intelligence information, and how do you use that in your daily decision making?
Boy, Hank, you know, you're right. And as you pointed out about, you know, the assessment. So really, you know, looking at the situations that we deal with here in Volusia County now, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is go to my phone and I look at the Atlantic update. So every morning, 6 o'clock, I have a report that tells me everything that's going on in the tropics. So that is absolutely critical for me. Then the next thing I look at is my daily update. You know, what is my chances for rainfall? What's the heat index going to be? You know, what conditions can I expect around the county? And, you know, then of course, as I'm on my way to work, not uncommon to get a call from our council members, our city managers, asking what they can expect for the day. And I'm informed and I'm ready to be able to provide that level of information. So, you know, keep an eye on the tropics, certainly during hurricane season, but then also keeping an eye on the weather all year long. Because besides hurricane season, we have tornado season, we had wildfire season, and many other seasons here in Florida that we have to contend with. So, you know, maintaining my situational awareness on the conditions for our county is absolutely critical. So Storm Geo helps me do that on a daily basis. And, you know, certainly with Hurricane Sally, just moments ago, I got another update on what's happening with that storm. And it's been a busy day here because, we're out of harm's way here in Daytona Beach, Volusia County. So we are mobilizing resources to be able to respond to the affected area. So it's even important for me to know what route are they going to take to get there? What are the weather conditions that they're going to expect? So a great deal of information comes out, not just ahead of the event, but also through the event until its conclusion.
All right, great. That's great. Hey, so Jim, on the, I know, I have my cheat sheets also. That's standard. Let's be honest about that. That's it. No, but coming back, I just talked about the various stages here. So can you walk us through your way of preparing for a hurricane or other major weather event that's happening? And it could be also, you have a lot of, about thunderstorms, Florida and thunderstorms. That is a challenge.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different weather events that we do have to prepare for, but, especially with hurricane season, again, back to that situational awareness, what is happening? And of course, as you mentioned, there are other products out there. We also work with the National Hurricane Center, as you can imagine. But the good news about Storm Geo is that if there's a blip anywhere in the tropics, I know about it. I know as things are coming off of Africa. I know where they're going, what they're going to do. Because with the National Hurricane Center and even with the National Weather Service locally, they do an incredible job. I'm really not going to get that critical information until I have to have it. I don't want to wait till I have to have it. I want to know what's going on out there in any given moment so that I'm able to track it, monitor it, and then also brief my leadership and also my cities. I've got 16 municipalities, as I mentioned, including Daytona Beach, and we are home to a lot of events. We have a lot of tourists that come to our community. So situational awareness, weather awareness, and making sure that we're on top of it all continually is just absolutely critical. So, just being able to get those routine updates on a daily basis. But then I also have a river to my west, which is the St. Johns River. Earlier today, I got a report about the fact that we have gone to minor flood stage. A lot of people live along the St. Johns, and especially in the little town of Astor. So on the other side of the river is Lake County. So I coordinate with my counterpart over there to make sure that we're notifying the residents. And also, we're putting out no wake zones. So we have to make sure that large boats aren't pushing that wake up into the backyards. So there's a lot that goes on with that. So, that one simple notice about, what's happening with the St. Johns triggers a lot of activities for me to undertake to make sure that we're protecting lives and property.
That's great. Hey, if you go back, Jim, you have a lot of experience and in the whole emergency management and especially around the weather events. In your county here, can you recall one event that says, oh, that stands out for me? And what was it and how did you deal with that?
Well, here in Volusia County, we're no stranger to bad weather. In fact, Volusia County a few years ago was in the top 10 of the most federally declared disaster counties in the nation. So, back in '98, we had horrible wildfires where literally most of the county was evacuated. The county north of us was evacuated, and it was serious. We just had an F2 tornado about 2 weeks ago in our little city west of town called DeLand. But for me, one of the most serious situations I dealt with was what we called the Groundhog Day tornado. And that was back around 2006, I believe, where I was working in a county just west of here. And it was basically close to an F4. We had 21 fatalities, and it did a tremendous amount of destruction. It traveled for miles. And, getting resources up and running, responding to that situation, and then also dealing with the fatalities and the aftermath of that. And, really, it takes years for people to recover. Even Hurricane Michael that, came up into the Panhandle, into that area. People are still recovering, and now they're, dealing with the effects of Hurricane Sally. So, these weather events are not short-lived by any means. The recovery phase lasts years, and it really takes a toll on human lives. So the more we can do to prepare the public, to be ready, to alert them to take the actions, the more we're able to reduce, the suffering and the loss, and helping people get better prepared for whatever may come our way, not just hurricanes, but all these other things that have the potential to create havoc. But again, the Groundhog Day tornado, that was a big one in my career, but I've been through a lot of hurricanes, floods, a lot of planning for all these other events as well. And, just you learn and you learn. And you also learn from what other people do wrong. So I'd rather learn from other people's mistakes and then not apply those same areas. But, it has been a great career, learned a lot and been through a lot. So, and then we apply that back to our community.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that about the learning factor. I think just to give you also a background on what happened just with Laura, where we had to make our decisions. We had our upfront defined decision guidance and like that, when to evacuate, when to call in the ride out team, etc. Everything we want. And you can't do that during the event, come up with the rules. You need to do that way before. But here, learning factor, now we're going back and we're doing an after action report. And we were also going to, how can we improve it? Because certain things are on paper good, but when you action item it, really go through it, there's some changes, make them changes afterwards. Most likely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot of folks on the call today, and I'm sure many of them have a plan. And I'm sure some of those plans might be pretty dusty. So, the plan is only as good as how much you train and exercise that plan. So dust it off, get it out, review it, and make sure everybody knows the plan, from the newest employee to the most senior official, and make sure everybody participates, because you can do exercises and it doesn't have to be expensive. Reach out to your local emergency management office and tell them, we would like to have an exercise. We can simply do a tabletop, and we can put you through a whole lot of different programs, challenges that will really make you think about, how does your plan work? Are you prepared to deal with your customers, with your employees? How are you going to pay people? There's so many things that we can help you improve upon, and we'd love to. That's what we're here to do. So reach out to that local emergency management office and engage them in your business or your workplace, and let them help you get better prepared.
Correct. Now, we actually, we also did a few months before a tabletop. And the person who was executing the tabletop and driving us through, he threw us several curveballs, including, John Doe and Jane Doe, they need to move to the co-location. And then you just got informed that John has COVID-19. He cannot travel. So what do you do now? So these are the drills that you need to go through, and you upfront discuss that. And that's a great thing.
That's great, because, if the main few people aren't available, what are the folks down the chain going to do? Are they prepared? Are they ready to step into those roles? So, you always want to train not just the person below you, but several people below you, so that anybody can step into that job and handle it. Whether it's an evacuation drill, a hurricane drill, or a fire drill, they're also extremely critical, to our daily operations, because, when things happen, they don't always give you plenty of notice like a hurricane. It can happen very quickly, and then you've got to deal with it. Just like the wildfires in California, tremendous devastation. Somebody knocked on the door, told residents, you got 5 minutes to grab what you can and get out. And that's true not only for residents, but for businesses. So are you ready to grab what you need? Have you got thumb drives with all your critical information on it? So all those things are so absolutely critical, to your continuity of operations, your COOP plan. So give that some thought. That's huge. If you lose your facility, where are you going to go? But again, the weather is the key to it all. Keeping up with the weather, your situational awareness, what's happening today, tomorrow, next week, and then do the planning to prepare for those potential weather events.
You already alluded to that, Jim, regarding you have an area where there's a lot of tourists, and I don't know who exactly is on this call here, but it's with that in mind that you have so many, I call it people from outside coming to your beautiful county there. What can you give them as an advice when they deal with where people come to a location from the outside? How do you deal with that
That's a great question, Hank. You know, here in Daytona Beach, we have the Daytona National Speedway. So, you know, we have the Coke Zero 400, we have the Daytona 500, but then other events that take place at that facility. We have a large convention center. So we've got folks in town all the time. We're getting ready for Biketoberfest. That'll bring a lot of folks to town. Of course, you know, we are certainly dealing with the COVID situation and all that as well, but also working with our hotel and motel industry, you know, making sure that we work with the business industry, economic development. So I can pick up the phone or go to an email and let our chambers of commerce know what's going on. They in turn help put the board out to the business community, also our hotel and motel organization. So the managers of those motels and hotels also are aware of what the conditions are going to be, so that if we do have a serious condition, you know, something is coming our way, and it looks like we may have to evacuate, that everybody's in sync. We also are fortunate in Volusia County that we have a tremendous community information line. You know, our public information folks do an incredible job, not just in Volusia County, but our municipalities, our sheriff's department, our health department. So all those public information folks working together, one voice, one message out to the community. And that includes, you know, making sure that the folks are here visiting, are well looked after, have the greatest information as well. And then they're prepared to take whatever actions that they need to take as well, whether it's go to one of our hurricane shelters, move inland, or maybe even head back home ahead of the whatever the event might be.
Right. I have one more question, and then I think we can open it up for questions from the outside. Your county here, give us a little overview of how big your county is and what has changed in the last 10, 20 years in Volusia County, because you're growing, you're a big organization, a big county here. So.
Well, we are. You know, Volusia County, we call it the size, it literally is the size of Rhode Island. So we have almost 600,000 residents. On any given day, we may have as many as 100,000 visitors in the community, 16 municipalities, 47 miles of beach. And as you mentioned, we're a big tourist area. But, you know, my job as the emergency management director for Volusia County is just like every other emergency manager in Florida and across the country. We pretty much all do the same things, but obviously we have different things to prepare for. I don't have to prepare for winter storms. Although I do coordinate cold weather sheltering for our homeless population. So we want to look after those folks as well. So it is a very large county. We have a large forest area that literally separates the east and the west part of the county. And then also our power grid, making sure that I work with FP&L, Florida Power and Light, and also Duke Energy to make sure that our power grid is substantial and you know, able to withstand the effects of a hurricane. And so, you know, community partnerships, we have what we call in Volusia County and across the country, cooperation, coordination, collaboration. But the most important thing is going to be communication, you know, being able to communicate what's going on with our partners. And again, with the size of this county, community presentations, reaching out to the public, making sure that, as you mentioned, our community is growing. We've got folks moving in here from all over the world, never been through a hurricane. So that's part of my responsibility, is make sure that I educate them on the things that they need to do to be better prepared. My brother, as an example, moved from Chicago, and he's in the Gulf Coast. So I had to educate my brother at the beginning of the hurricane season what to do. One of the things that I encouraged him to do was get flood insurance. First thing he told me this morning is, thank God I got flood insurance, because it looks like he may have some water coming into his home. And that's one of the big mistakes people make, is not, again, getting that flood insurance. So again, things like that, community education is so absolutely critical at all levels. To our business community, making sure that they understand the COOP planning and the things that they can do. So all levels of training, planning, exercises, fire, EMS, law enforcement, but even including our gated communities, our mobile homes, and just helping everybody get trained. It's 365 days a year. We're constantly doing that, morning, noon, and night, and always available for public presentations. You know, again, just like other emergency managers across the country. So it's quite a family. You know, we're involved in different large organizations. The International Association for Emergency Managers is one that I belong to. And we learn from each other, learn from each other's mistakes, and then we bring that home and apply that back to our communities. So love Volusia County, and it's just a wonderful position to be in, and love what I do.
That's great. So yeah, I don't have any additional questions anymore, Jim. Here, thank you for being on this call, on this webinar here. Let's I give it back to Bob to see if there's any questions coming in from the audience.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jim, and thank you, Hank. And again, if you do have any questions for either of our speakers here today, you can locate the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We have several that have been submitted here. Let me jump into the first one. Jim, how do you coordinate with other counties, knowing that they might have different information sources?
That's a great question. And that's one of the things we do as a system is moving our way. Right now, we have multiple regions in the state of Florida. I'm in Region 5, which is Volusia County all the way south to Martin County. And then we have inland counties, which are Orange County, you're familiar with that, Disney World, the city of Orlando, and then also Seminole County, Osceola County, and other large communities. So matter of fact, this afternoon, we also have a regional conference call. So we're in constant communication with each other. And while each individual county has different platforms, many do use StormGeo as we do. But when we get into a situation like that, we pretty much all then tune in to our National Weather Service office, which is out of Melbourne, Florida, or Brevard County. So it's a regional office. I'm still monitoring StormGeo for all the greatest information there. But then the regional weather office from the National Weather Service is going to give us storm surge information, rainfall information. They're in our backyard, so they're going to give us a lot of that information that all Region 5 is going to be participating in. So, it's about the tools in the toolbox. I think we all know that. So the more tools that I have in the toolbox, the more things that I can handle, the more things that I can fix. So our partners with the National Weather Service do an incredible job. Our partners in the National or with StormGeo do an incredible job. And I always take the time to thank our StormGeo brothers and sisters because, again, they do an incredible job keeping us informed. But then also, if I see something, then I get on the phone to my partners in the region and let them know what I'm seeing because of the information I'm getting from StormGeo. And then also, I make sure up at work at 7 in the morning, review the Atlantic weather information, and then I'm on a radio show. And I've got that information on my fingertips to be able to provide it, to my community. And then a lot of these radio stations are on a regional basis as well. So it is important that we do communicate up and down the coast. I have Flagler County to my north as in a different region, but they're a contiguous county. So it's important that I also communicate and collaborate with them as well. So, having, again, the National Weather Service having StormGeo, and there are other products that folks use as well. But again, communicating across the lines to make sure that everybody's on board, and also who's going to evacuate, to make sure that we coordinate our evacuation processes, in a very formal setting so that I know what Martin County to the very south is doing, because they may be coming north. I may become a host county. So again, that communication, not only on a regional basis, but on a state level is so absolutely critical. Communication is everything. Anytime you have a disaster, the first thing that people will talk about in the hot wash is what failed. Well, parts of communication. They're always going to be trouble. We always struggle with it. But, it's something we always want to work at and learn from.
Most definitely. Excellent response. So next question, it looks like it's a question for Hank. Based on your experience, can small businesses afford weather intelligence services?
The answer is yes. Of course, the word is what is small business, but we're covering all kinds of businesses and chains and like that. And yeah, they can. And you can also think about it that you're, for instance, with a group of businesses that you want to do together. So yeah, the answer is yes. And there's all kinds of packages, I would say, that you can deploy here and be informed about the real weather. Absolutely. The answer is yes. Yep.
All right. Another question, either one of you can jump in. You mentioned probabilistic forecasts. Can you tell us more about how these forecasts can be used in decision making?
Yeah, I brought that very briefly up, and the word probabilistic here. many of these forecasts, what you see always, you see, hey, it's going to be 82 degrees. It's quite very much, this is it here. And what people don't understand quite often, and let me be clear, I'm not a meteorologist. I need to make that clear. But what I've learned here within StormGeo, it's very specific. Then it's around 82 degrees, what it is. And that's deterministic. But what is more important is, what is the chance that the temperature, for instance, goes to 85 or 87 or 88 degrees, and like that? There's a whole probability. That is the real weather intelligence information, not just at 82 degrees. Okay, I'm talking now about temperature, but you can also talk about wind gust and like that. Because based on that, if you say, I want to take the risk that wind gust over 50 miles per hour, if it is more than 30% chance that they go over 50 miles per hour, I'm not erecting that crane, for instance, what I had as an example. That's a key decision. That's a key business decision. Where do you put these risk factors? So we work with a lot of clients where we have these thresholds to make all kinds of decisions that something becomes red, green, yellow, etc. That's a very key important. It's not just a deterministic, that one number, it's more the range of numbers and what is the chance for that. Yeah.
And if I could jump in, something that happens from time to time is that, the weather being the weather, is that, the best intelligence is you better get ready. I'll use an example with Hurricane Isaias. Hank, that one slide you showed earlier had the cone of uncertainty coming toward Florida. Well, the center of that, cone in the direct line was to Volusia County. So, that brought back a bad memory. But the good news is it began to move a little further east, began drifting east. And so we weren't sure how close it was going to come to Volusia County. So with that, out of abundance of caution, I opened up 4 hurricane shelters, a pet-friendly, 2 special needs, and a general population shelter. And because based on the conditions I had at that time, that was what I needed to do. Then, of course, the system took a jog further to the east, and guess what? I had 4 shelters with nobody in them. So you take a little bit of heat with that. In emergency management and also with the weather, when you get it perfect, you get part of the credit. When you get it wrong, you get all the blame. So, a little bit of criticism about those 4 shelters, but it was the right decision to make at the right time. So understand that sometimes you've got to make tough decisions, and you got to stand by that decision. Because again, if the conditions do come forward, then you made the right one. But you do not want to roll the dice with the weather and hope that things are going to be okay. Make a decision, stand by them, and always err on the side of safety. So if you got to shut that crane down and nothing happens, well, you're lucky, you're thankful. But then you put people back to work and you kept them out of harm's way.
Exactly. Thank you for this. That's definitely, and we had a similar here with Laura. Do we want to have a ride-out time team here if Laura would shift to Houston and it gets hit by Laura hits Houston, or not? What are we doing? Are we evacuating or not? We had to make a decision, and we went with the chances, the actual numbers, probabilistic and like that. And we said we're going to split the team. That's what we have accounted for. And afterwards, you can easily say, yeah, you should not do that, but that's easy talk afterwards. And then many of the listeners will have that same experience. You're never right at that point.
And I'm still employed. So fortunately, so far, I've been able to make the right decisions. But I'll tell you, I know a lot of emergency managers that aren't in a leadership position anymore because of different things that happen. So, we learn from those. And I remember the city of New York one time, there was a horrible snowstorm coming. The city made the right decision based on circumstances, and they shut it down. Well, the storm went another direction. And again, that's just another example of tough decisions that sometimes have to be made. But the opposite of that was, if you remember a few years ago in Atlanta, and I know the emergency management director who was there, they waited. The storm was coming. They pulled the trigger at the last minute, put people out on the highways. The storm hit, and it was absolute mayhem. And he's no longer in Atlanta, but he's a great guy. And there's also sometimes political pressure that happens and makes you do things when maybe we don't want to do them. So that factors into it as well. So, things do happen. That's why it's so important, to stay tuned, maintain your situational awareness with the weather. Another example is Hurricane Irma. Hurricane Irma was coming into southeast Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward counties. Then it was moving toward going up the central part of the state. Well, a lot of people evacuated to Tampa. And then guess where the storm went? Luckily, it just went up, inside of the coast. If it would have stayed offshore with Tampa, it would have put that right front quadrant, over a lot of those areas where they had 35, 40,000 people that evacuated to that location. So sometimes you put yourself in harm's way by not keeping up, not following the situational awareness. And, you think you're doing the right thing only to find out you put yourself in a worse situation.
Wonderful. Hank, you spoke a lot about North America, but does Storm Geo's forecast apply to international concerns as well?
Yes, like in the very beginning, I said we are an international company, and all the alerts and like that we have, we are providing that around the globe, on sea, onshore as well as offshore. So it's the offshore component is also very key to us. But yes, we covered Europe, Asia Pacific, EMEA, of North Africa, etc. Certain areas, must be said, certain areas will have less detailed forecast than some others, because very straightforward, the data is not available. Yes, we have satellites, but you have them less on the ground of stations and like that. So, but overall, yeah, we cover the whole world. Okay.
All right, wonderful. Jim, does your department sync up or work closely with local businesses, and any suggestions on how best to work with our local emergency management groups?
Well, have the business reach out to your local emergency management office. Every county in Florida, all 67 counties, but then every county across the country has a local emergency management office. And we're here to support our business community. Whether it's coming out again and doing tabletop exercises, helping with your continuity of operations plans, whatever it is, we're here to support you and the community. So, just reach out, get that emergency manager on the phone and introduce yourself and your business. And then also from an economic development standpoint, we had a large business that was going to come into Volusia County, and it was basically a call-taking center on a national level. They were concerned about coming into the county because of, being a coastal community and the threat for hurricanes. I met with them, talked about where the best locations would be for them to locate. They, in fact, came to Volusia County and brought a lot of business, brought a lot of jobs. And so I'm huge into economic development and our business community, but it's a partnership. And, that's what we're here to do, is help our businesses thrive. And certainly with this pandemic, we provided a lot of information, a lot of support to the business community to be able to help them, get through this event. And even some of our parks water parks and so on, we're happy to help them review, their plans to make sure that they have all the infectious control procedures, personal protective equipment, and the things that they need to be able to safely operate. So, we're just here to help. And so I can't encourage you enough to reach out to the local guy or gal, that emergency manager, get to know them, make them a part of your team.
All right, wonderful. Thanks. And again, you definitely do sync up with your local emergency management group, because you guys are a great resource, and appreciate all you do for your community there, Jim. So that wraps up our Q&A here today. Any parting words today, Hank or Jim?
Yeah, I mean, when I started here and introduced Jim, I totally forgot to put this up here. I have on my slide here, which is so there's a Jim, and you see him also on screen, and the beautiful area of Daytona Beach, definitely worthwhile to visiting for everyone. And I want to thank all the audience also for tuning in and listening to us. And if there's anything, then please reach out to Jim or to myself, and we're here to help you and to give any advice and move forward. And I would say stay safe. And that's the key point here. Be prepared and stay safe. And that's for weather, and that is also for COVID-19, for everything else. Jim, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I just going to offer, listen, if there's anything I can do, an email away, Bob, Hank have my information. More than happy to, take phone calls, emails, texts, and help out any way I can. But as Hank mentioned, just taking those preparedness steps. Don't put it off to another day. Dust out that plan, take a look at it. And baby steps are fine. And, something we talked about too is checklists. I'm a big checklist kind of guy, so, making sure that you can go down your checklist and look at all those things with your preparedness activities, from first aid kits to, to training, and making sure everybody from the top to the bottom knows that plan, is prepared to enact that plan. So, there's no time like now to get ready, because here's the deal. It doesn't matter where you live in the United States. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. You're subject to a disaster. None of us want to think it's going to happen to us. And that's part of my challenge, is convincing people that it can happen. It has happened and possibly will happen. Look at what's going on around the world. Look at what's going on in the United States. Wildfires, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. So, you can roll the dice, as I mentioned earlier, and hope nothing happens, or you can get prepared. And then you're ready to deal with whatever comes your way. And your employees will thank you for it. The citizens will thank you for it, because there are businesses out there that we need, and we want you in operation and can't afford to lose you. So dust them off, get them ready.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks. Great advice. Thanks again, everyone, for your attendance here today. We again hope we gather some great information from today's webinar. I'd also like to thank Jim and Hank for their time here today, as well as Storm Geo for sponsoring today's webinar. We will be emailing everyone a link to the recording. You may view that recording as frequently as you wish, or share it with your peers. If you have any additional questions, please contact Disaster Recovery Journal. Thank you again, and this now ends today's webinar. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.